The fear I think everyone has is it's hard to start something new. One of the things is just getting your first client that actually pays you. A minimum, I would say, of 3 months before you start showing up on Google. One of the biggest things in SEO is just to kill it as much as you can with people so that they want to give you more business. If you just want to do like 1 month of something, you're not going to see a ton of results. Don't just do what you hear people say. Actually research it yourself. I said, what are you doing for work? He said, I'm doing this. What about you? And I said, I do this and I do SEO on the side. He said, I would love to talk to you more about that.
Hey everyone, welcome to the howtostartabusiness.com podcast with Blaze Bullock from blazedigitalmarketing.com. Got it right?
Right. Perfect.
All right. So we are rebooting this podcast. This is probably my most successful podcast I've ever had per episode, not total number of downloads. And Blaze is here today to talk about how to start an SEO company.
Right.
So he's been living the grand life. You're living the remote dream.
Yeah, it's the exact dream. When I first started in SEO, this is what I wanted my life to look like. I was telling someone that just yesterday, and I'm super happy about it.
You just got back from Argentina?
Yeah, I was in Buenos Aires for 4 weeks, and then on the weekends I would go to other countries as well. So I went to Brazil for a little bit, Chile, and I also went to Uruguay. Okay. So I went to 4 countries in that month.
All right, so let's talk about how you got into it, what it's like to start an SEO company, how you got your first client. Let's start with your story.
And where do you want me to go from? Do you want me to go from like when I started doing it on this, like SEO for myself, or like for other companies, or when I got my first SEO job?
What's your story? Let's go there.
Okay, so I actually started doing SEO when I had been living in DC, and I was working out there, and I just started doing a blog on the side, and then I thought it would just help me with keeping my writing skills up and stuff like that. And then I had some personal things that didn't really work out. My marriage ended, and I moved back to Utah, and I didn't have a job, didn't have anything going on. So I was just applying for jobs, and I was super lucky. I got a job at Larry H. Miller Corporation doing SEO for them, just very bottom of the barrel, And so I was doing SEO there, and I worked there for 2 years. And then I think that's when I met you and some other people in the Silicon Slopes digital marketing scene at the Utah DMC. And that's where everything really opened my eyes to like what the world could be like. Like you guys were all telling me about different podcasts to listen to and just different things. And those turned me on to like how you could live in a place like Argentina and stuff like that while working remotely. And so I ended up getting another job at Ford, and I worked there for a couple of years as well, several years. And while I was there, I started doing SEO on the side. And again, that was from people at the Utah DMC. So that was super awesome.
And the Utah DMC is a marketing group, correct? I
think it might have been called something else in the past, but so it's a local marketing group where they have experts come in and talk about SEO or Google Ads or different things, or CRO and stuff like that, and teach people how to become experts essentially in their spaces. And so I met a bunch of other people that were way smarter than me, and they really helped me see what I could do and how to get started with SEO. And so some of what I like to share with people all the time is things that they told me that worked super well and were just a huge benefit to me.
Okay. What were the baby steps or fears or whatnot?
Well, the fear I think everyone has is it's hard to start something new. It could be anything. It's if you want to start playing basketball or something, it's hard to start something new because you feel like an idiot when you first do it, and you're worried you're going to screw up. And the thing is, I'll say is you will screw up. But what they told me is there's very like when you start something, you're going to screw up, and that's okay, but you will learn along the way and you'll get better. And there's not a lot of like if you start an SEO business on the side, there's not a ton of downside to that because you don't have tons of expenses. You don't have to go rent out an office building or an office space or something. It's just kind of like, well, if it doesn't work out, you just kind of go back to what you were doing before anyway. And since what I did was I didn't quit my day job to start doing SEO on the side, I didn't really have hardly anything to lose. And that was actually one of the best things that anybody told me as well. If it doesn't work out, right back where you were before anyway. So you might as well do it.
Okay. What were your first big milestones?
I think, one of the things is just getting your first client that actually pays you. And I guess one of the other first milestones is having a client that rips you off and refuses to ever pay you.
Okay.
And so you learn things along the way, like always make sure you get a contract and stuff like that. But I think just getting someone that paid me and liked what I was doing. So that first check you get is such a cool experience. You're like, whoa, I'm doing this. Like I'm actually doing it. And it gives you the confidence to get rolling and to keep going. And then I would say one of the other huge milestones is when that client likes you so much that they refer you more business. And so I would say one of the biggest things in SEO is just to kill it as much as you can with people so that they want to give you more business.
Okay. What was that first client like? Tell us the story.
So what it was is I was listening to just different online marketing podcasts, and what they would talk about just giving out free advice to people. So I had coworkers at the time that wanted to learn more about SEO. We were all like consultants for online marketing, but I was kind of the SEO guy in the company. And so they would all come to me. And so, one of them specifically, I would give him off hours trainings through like Zoom call type stuff and just teach him the basics of SEO, sometimes once a week or something like that, And he was like, man, you really know your stuff. And so that's the thing, is you share what you know. And he said, look, I have a buddy who is a lawyer out in Oregon. And this guy, this happened probably 5 years ago or something like that. And this guy is still a client of mine. And he said, I have this old buddy. He's a lawyer out in Oregon. And I don't think he'll pay you a lot. But he said, but he's someone that would like to talk with you. And so I spoke with him, and your hourly rate in the beginning is just so terrible because I just didn't care if I was making like $2 an hour or something. I just wanted it to work, And so he gave me the referral, and I worked for him, and I just busted my butt as much as I could. And if I like to think that there are people at the time, especially back then, that I would say knew more than me. And I would tell people that, look, if you're looking for someone who knows more about SEO, who's the smartest guy you'll ever meet, that's not me. But nobody will work harder than me. And if I don't know the answer, I'll figure it out. And that attitude, I think, has really served me well in SEO. Of course, there's things I don't know, but I will not be outworked by someone. And so that client liked me so much, and I should say likes me so much. I still work with him. He continues to refer me more business as time goes on. So I've gotten several other clients from him, and it's been great.
What did that first contract look like?
You mean like was it month to month, or what do you mean?
I mean, what was it for a specific project? Was it for monthly services?
Yeah. So what you'll find a lot in SEO from people who don't know much about it is that they want you to just do something one time. So they'll say, hey, can you I just need a little bit of SEO. And so can you go through my website and just help me show up better on Google? And anyone who knows SEO hardly at all knows that you need more than a month to show up. Really, I mean, it takes a minimum, I would say, of 3 months before you start showing up on Google. And depending on how competitive things are, it can take a lot longer than that even. But so for that first contract, all it was he wanted me to just do a month's worth. And so I was like, well, okay, let me set your expectations here. You're not going to see a huge amount, but during that time, you're not going to see a huge amount of progress. But during that time, we communicated a lot, and I showed him what I was doing and everything. And he said, yeah, I actually want to hire you on just a retainer basis. So you're just going to continue doing stuff for me. So I just, during that first month, I did everything I could. I went through and optimized all of his pages and just kind of did as much as I could in 1 month to show my value to him and to show him what could be done with SEO. And he just said, yeah, I want to hire you. So to continue being my SEO guy. And so then we did another contract with it where he said, where he hired, where, yeah, it was just, then it was a month to month, and it just kept going. And, it's just been a great situation ever since.
Okay. What does your average contract look like when you begin, or when you engage with someone? Are you specifically giving them something that's small, that's just a one-time small deliverable? Are you trying to get them into an ongoing contract? What's the goal?
Right now?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So right now, I tell people my rates, and I say, look, this is how much, if you have me as a retainer, you're going to be spending a month. This is how much you're going to be spending. If you don't do a retainer, this is what it'll be. And I generally try and get people to the retainer spot, because you just can't get as much of a result through that. And so if you're just doing something like on a 1 month project or something like that. So I generally do try to push people to a continual, like, no end in sight kind of thing, and set their expectations that, like, look, if you just want to do like 1 month of something, you're not going to see a ton of results. I can do that for you. Or if you want to come to me from time to time and have me do stuff, okay, I can do that for you, but we need to lower your expectations on what your results will be. Your results will be much better if you do the things continually. And so that's the direction that I tend to push people to. And I say, I mean, even in my contracts, look, I don't tell people you have to do this for at least 6 months. I tell them it's month to month. And if something happens, we can cancel or whatever earlier than 6 months or something. But I tell people, look, if you're only wanting to do this for like 1 month or 2 months, it's probably not worth either of our time and money. So I don't ask for that to be written into the contracts, but I just tell people, I would say give it at least 3 months, more like 3 to 6 on the low end, before you decide you need to see massive results.
How do you manage expectations in your space? Because I feel like in your space, it's tricky. No matter, you could do an amazing job and you could have results today and gone tomorrow.
Yeah, I haven't had too much of a problem with that, honestly. I mean, by starting from the get-go saying, look, this is going to take some time, and I wouldn't expect to see a massive growth in sales or traffic within the first couple of months. I think that sets a pretty good like measurement for them. At least, like, okay, Blaze isn't promising me the moon or the world and then under delivering, right? So my thing is, I want to tell them, like, it's going to be down here. Let's lower your expectations, and then I'm going to do everything I can to overshoot that. So even a simple thing is, if somebody asks me for a project to be done, or let's see, like, even if they just need a free SEO review, right, which I do all the time, I don't tell them, if I think I can get it done for them by Tuesday, I don't tell them it's going to be done by Tuesday. I tell them it'll be done by Friday, and then I get it to them on Tuesday or Wednesday, because if something happens, I want to be able to over deliver. And so I think the biggest thing is telling people from the outset what you think will realistically happen, and then just doing everything that you can to make sure you beat that.
Okay. Currently, do you do all the work yourself, or do you have a team now?
So I have some other contractors that I work with that, like, I think they only work for me. So, but they're not actually employees, if that makes sense. So I don't do all the work myself. I have a couple of other contractors, and from time to time, if there's like a technical thing or something, I'll use Fiverr or, something like that as well to get something done. But I still oversee and do all the implementation. So if I'm writing a blog post for a client, let's say, or page content, I will come up with all of the keywords for it and all of that stuff, but then I'll assign it out to these writers that I've trained, and then they'll write it, I'll look over it, and then I will publish it on the website and all that stuff. So I don't do all of it myself, to say it shortly.
What's your goal? Is it to continue to, maintain the current, team size? Do you want it to be 100-person SEO agency?
I don't want to be stagnant ever. I don't believe in just saying, like, okay, I hit this goal of revenue, and I'm not going to try and grow past that. Like, now we're good and we're just going to try and maintain. So I'm always trying to grow, and I do have a goal to have more people. I haven't thought of exactly how massive I want that to be. I don't want to have a building because I want to be remote still. So, and the people that are contractors underneath me, they're 100% remote too. And in fact, one of them I've never met in person. I've never had a video call with her, and she does a phenomenal job. So my goal is to constantly be growing. I don't know. I don't have a specific like number of employees or something like that I want to have, but I do believe in constantly pushing and trying to grow. And that's the same thing I even tell my clients is like, I mean, as soon as you stop, like one of the benefits of SEO is that once you stop, even you can still see huge benefits for a long time. I mean, you can write a blog post or build a page that will rank at the top of Google for years, right? But if you're not continually doing that, other people are going to come around and they'll beat you. And so you've got to constantly be trying to view it as like an arms race, right? So other people are trying to grow a lot and trying to be bigger and better than you, and you want to be the baddest guy on the block.
Mm-hmm. Are there different types of SEO agencies you can build? Like, so for example, I mean, like when I look at Codebase, in my mind, there's certain inflection points where the business is drastically different today than for yesterday. Sometimes I think in general, when you're running a business, the general rule is once you go from 0 to 1 million,
mm-hmm.
it's one business. Once you cross that line, the whole business changes.
Mm-hmm.
And then it changes again at the 10 million mark. Is the SEO space like that, as well?
In regards to if you can build multiple like different kinds, like you could be just an agency that just says, look, we'll just do SEO for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And like that can work really well. You can also be there's plenty of very successful people. Greg Gifford is one of them that only focus on a very specific niche, right? So he just does local SEO. In fact, I think he spoke at the Utah DMC like a year ago or something like that. I saw that and he was great. So there are multiple routes that you can go with it. I haven't seen anyone say, hey, look, we're this size. We don't want to keep growing with SEO. And I'm not at that point yet where I don't
But as
wanna,
an agency owner.
As an agency owner.
Yeah. Like obviously if you're getting success with SEO, you're going to look at the ROI, you're going to continue.
Mm-hmm.
But do you see like, is there a part where it becomes uncomfortable to get bigger?
I mean, I'm certainly not there yet, but as an SEO owner, I haven't heard of that happening at all. So from my perspective, I haven't seen that, but I mean, that certainly could be the case,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't seen that at all.
Are you still in the practitioner space or are you more of the, hey, I'm delegating space?
I am a mix of the two because I still do all of the strategy and I do a lot of the implementation. So like I said, if I come up with the blog post idea or something like that, I come up with all of the details for it. I say these are the keywords and they need to be said, in the first or second sentence. I say, here's all of the subsections that we need to have and so forth. And here's how long it needs to be at a minimum. And then they write it, I look over it, and then I'm the one who puts it on the website. I'm the one who publishes it. I'm the one who sends the reports to the clients. I do all of the client interaction as well. So I would say I'm more of the practitioner, but I also do a fair amount of delegating as well. And there's some other things too, like with Google Business Profile posts and things like that I have the contractors do, but I still do it's a mix. I do the strategy and a lot of the implementation on that.
Mm-hmm. How do you grow sales for your business?
So I do a couple things. I mean, one of them is through referrals, right? I mean, that's the thing. If you want to grow your business, the best thing you can do is do a killer job for people, and so that they are going to want to give you referrals. And so, in fact, I can trace a huge amount of my business back to like one conversation I had with somebody who she referred me to someone, and then that person really liked me, and so they have referred me to so many other people since. So that is a huge part of it, and that's been very good for me. But another thing, and I always tell people, hey, can you give me, if you have any referrals, please let me know. But another thing that I do is I do marketing for myself as well. So I would recommend if you're trying to start your own SEO, at least get started with that. So make your own website, have a Google Business Profile, which is funny. I mean, like I have a Google Business Profile and I get clients locally in Salt Lake City that find me through that, or people that find me through my website. I would still recommend doing SEO for yourself. I know people say SEO is so competitive, but for me, it gets me clients all the time. And so I do that. I do my own SEO, and then I also get them through referrals and things like that as well.
Okay. How much of your SEO is SEO local to grow your agency versus just broad level like or long tail keywords? Because
So
that would be a lot more. I'd assume in your space that'd be a lot trickier.
to do like the non-local SEO.
Correct.
It hasn't been, so this is what's funny, and I would say is don't just do what you hear people say. Actually research it yourself, because I had people tell me very early on when I was asking, like, how do I get started doing SEO on the side? Should I start a website or something? And they were like, don't start a website. Don't do SEO for online. You won't get any clients from that. And so they were people that were more successful than me in SEO at the time. And so I just believed them. And once I actually did the keyword research, I was like, this isn't true at all. Like you can totally get like leads and traffic for this. So I just started looking online, and I started doing those, like just the simple keyword research for businesses or different types of businesses that might be searching for SEO. And yeah, sure, some parts of that are competitive, but that's true of any business. And so I started doing some blogging of my own for my SEO business, and then also doing, like I said, I mean, I have a website, I have a Google business profile. I get people reaching out to me through both of those fairly frequently.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel like ChatGPT and other LLMs are changing your space or market?
So far, I think, I mean, a lot is yet to be determined, right? So far, I think that they're great, and they have helped make things more efficient. There are issues with that, certainly. Like, I do not recommend. I had a client tell me, "Hey, look, you don't need to write the blog posts anymore. You can just have ChatGPT do it." And it's funny. This is another lawyer I had as a client, and he was like, "Look, I just asked it to write a blog post about this subject, and it did it, and it was indistinguishable from what a human would write." And so I said, "Okay, do that. Like, now ask it to write a blog post, and ask it to make it like 900 words as a simple thing." And he said, "Okay." I did it. And I said, "Okay, now how many words is it?" And it was like 500 or something like that. And I said, "Okay, now ask it again." And I went up to 600. So, still asking it to make it 900. And I said, "Okay, now ask it a third time." And it went down to 500. Yeah. So there are just right now, as something that just purely writes by itself or does SEO by itself, it isn't amazing, but it's a great assistant. I think it has improved. It's something that helps me come up with topics for things. It can help you come up with strategies for things. But as something, I mean, there was a recent Google update that actually where they did a manual penalty, and where some websites just got like de-indexed because they were just using AI to just upload like 100 blog posts and stuff like that. And so it's like, okay, now your website's gone, because it's something that doesn't have a human using it. It's not amazing right now, but it is a very useful tool at this moment. And I'm excited to see how it grows and how it how it improves things.
Does the invention of ChatGPT affect others looking to get into the space?
You mean how so? Like making them worried that they don't want to do SEO because ChatGPT is just going to take over?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we look at spaces, like we own Codebase, we do, we're both creating content, right, of various forms for specific outcomes. And I think one of the conferences I was at today, the big thought is, is it going to take over my job, right, in the space of writing? And I think if it, content in some aspects is free, it makes the supply of content infinite. And I think that's definitely a large chunk of an SEO strategy. I know there's more. I mean, I think in your space, you're kind of unique, because I think part of being a good SEO is also like being a good salesperson and being able to convince other people to let you, be featured or get links from their site. And I think there's a huge human aspect there.
Yeah. And you're definitely right. I think there is some insulation from that, but I also think, I mean, as I mentioned, that client I had, he was just saying, look, do you really need to write anything? Like, I could just ask ChatGPT to write this. And so I'm sure that there are some people that are nervous about it. And, I do talk to people from time to time that say, oh, I'm worried about my job in this or that. But I'm not too worried about it. I think I'm excited to see the innovations that come along with it. I think there will definitely be a lot of changes in the next 5 to 10 years, probably. But I'm not worried about it too much myself. If SEO does somehow go away because ChatGPT becomes this amazing thing, I think, I'll have to learn a new skill or something. But I think I think there's a lot of opportunity to use it to make things better. And with anything new that comes along, there's going to be changes. It's going to make it so some people don't want to hire you. But so far, I haven't had anyone doing that, because the people that want you to do SEO, from my perspective, have been like, if they don't know a lot about SEO, they don't tend to know much about AI either. And so it hasn't affected my business at all, and making it harder for me to get clients or anything. In fact, it's made it easier for me to do more work and to do it better and faster, I would say.
What's the difference between, do you focus on, the on-site stuff, or do you focus also on link building? And when you're creating a business, is that something someone, if looking to consider, should they focus on one or the other?
So I do both of those. Yeah. So I do all of these stuff, all of the page building, and like link building, blog writing, all that stuff. Even I do some of it, like the digital PR aspect of that, where through link building, where I'm reaching out to reporters and stuff like that for people. So I do all of that. And I'm sorry, what was your second question that you asked?
If you were starting a business, how much would you focus on, hey, we're going to be an SEO firm, but we're going to specifically focus on just being amazing at link building? Is that a valid strategy?
You could, I know people that do that. It seems to me, from my perspective, to be harder, because if people don't know a lot about SEO, which most of my clients don't, they might know a tiny bit. A lot of the time what I find is they maybe saw me quoted in something, or they saw me sharing free advice somewhere and doing it a lot. And so they were like, oh, you know what you're talking about. I would like to hire you. So I would say for someone trying to start their own SEO business, or as a freelancer or whatever, that's one of I would say that's the first thing I would do, is just start telling everybody that this is what you're doing, and then just sharing free advice, whether it's on LinkedIn or something. I remember I posted on Facebook, and just, I would tell friends, and at first you feel so awkward doing it. You're like, none of the, people ask, oh, like, what do you do for work? And you're like, well, I do this. Oh, and then also I'm doing SEO on the side. So if you know anybody, and they're like, okay, cool, whatever. But as time goes on, I remember I ran into an old buddy I hadn't seen in like 15 years at the airport, and I was getting off my plane. He was getting on his, or about to get on his. And, he just said, I said, oh, like, what are you doing for work? He said, oh, I'm doing this. What about you? And I said, oh, I do this, and I do SEO on the side. He said, I would love to talk to you more about that. Give me your card. And so he became a client of mine.
In the airport?
Yeah, just
I
randomly
kind of oddly feel like the airport is a really interesting place to pick up business.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting because someone who's a poser generally is not at the airport.
Right.
And I feel like that once you're there, the sales conversation is drastically different. Mm-hmm. Oh, you're meeting a client, you're flying to speak at an event, and it changes everything.
Yeah, and maybe it's even too that people that are at the airport, they've accomplished something, right? Because they're traveling for whatever reason. I mean, when I was recently coming back from Buenos Aires, the person next to me owns a tourism business, and so she does tours for people that are 55 and up to go to different parts of Latin America. And so she just started talking to me about that, and then she said, "What do you do?" And so it was a great opportunity for me to talk to her, and I gave her a free SEO review.
Okay, what do your SEO reviews typically look like?
So it's something like I'll give them a 10 point, around 10 points, just because I find anything more than that, like on a bulleted list, is kind of too much to go through. But I'll give them a 10-point just list of, hey, here's things that I recommend doing for your SEO. So some of that is, we got to update your title tags and meta descriptions. We got to make it so that once you're getting traffic on your website, so that they're likely to turn into a lead. So adding buttons and things like that, changing up some of the verbiage, and writing blog posts. And then I'll give them a few ideas too as to what types of pages they should have and what some of the keywords are. And and same thing for blog posts. Like, okay, for her, we got to use these. Here's 3 keyword phrases that you could use on yours. And even I'll show them a competitor that does this better than what they're doing, and how we can kind of get some ideas from them as well. So, and then I'll do a screen share walkthrough where I I walk them through each step. It's usually like 15-ish minutes. And that way, and then I just email them all of that, and then we follow up later. But that way they're getting it explained to them specifically, but they can also digest it really easily.
Okay. For someone looking to start an SEO agency, what tools should they consider?
So I would use something like SEMrush. It's hard for me to call it SEMrush. I know that it's been a while now since they wanted to go with that, but SEMrush or Ahrefs, something like that is super good. Screaming Frog is another one that's really good, and that one's great too because it's free. So some tools like that, I would say use Google Analytics a ton on your own. Get very good with that. And I would also say use like ChatGPT or some form of AI a lot, so you can get an idea of how you could use that for yourself to do SEO for yourself and for your clients to really help them figure out what they need to do.
Okay. If you were looking to do maybe some other ideas for an SEO firm, what about just like narrowing in on YouTube or say even podcasts? Say we do SEO, but we focus on podcasts, or we do focus on YouTube specifically.
What do I think about that?
Is that too niche?
I don't think so. I mean, they say niches make riches, right? So
okay.
I don't think it's too much. That's not the route. Or sorry, I don't think it's too niche. That's not the route that I've gone.
Because you've done more the local side, right?
Yeah. So I tend to do more local. I do have businesses that are national and even one or two clients that are international. But I mean, really, I would say if you can be the guy that does this. The only issue I've seen if you become, like, for instance, I did SEO in cars for a long time at Larry H. Miller and Ford. And so that some people, like if you're doing it for a car dealership, right? Like a Ford dealership, let's say, in Atlanta, well, you can't really do it for other Ford dealers in Atlanta, or same with Toyota or whatever, right? Because they all view each other as competitors, and they'll fight you on that. So that is an issue you can run into. But if you want to just be like, look, I'm the local guy, like Greg Gifford, as I mentioned, is a perfect example of that. And there's a lot of people that do that just really focus on one thing. Like, I think that really helps you in a way, because you're someone that everybody knows, like, oh, so-and-so is the guy for YouTube SEO, or so-and-so is the guy for this other thing. What's worked for me is doing a lot of it for local businesses, but then they will also say, hey, can you also do it for this other thing? Or I know someone else that needs SEO. They're not quite what I do, but can you do that? Or, hey, I'm doing it for my business, but can you also do it for my YouTube channel? What do you think about that? And so I think it's good to know how to do some of those other things, but I have really liked becoming an expert in local SEO and really, really digging in deep on that.
Okay. How, brain fart. I had like a great question. What was it? So one of the challenges is, like, we have local or national content. Like, can an SEO, if you're starting an SEO agency, how successful can you be on non-local? Because I feel like if you go to Google anymore, they prioritize local, and they prioritize people who have paid ads. But outside of that, everything is buried. And I think most people aren't aware anymore that the first three options are paid.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because most of the people I talk to still say that and I'm the same way. It's ingrained in me for some reason that I don't click on the ads.
Okay.
So
But you're also more sophisticated.
I am very sophisticated, but I have noticed that, just joking there, but I have noticed that, I mean, even just clients I talk to, they tell me they don't click on the top 3 or 4 ones. I think it's 4. Yeah. They don't click on those because for some reason they don't find the results are as good or whatever. But to get back to your question on national versus local, the real thing with all of that is this something that would be useful to my potential clients?
Mm-hmm.
So if you are a lawyer is an easy example, because if I'm a lawyer in the state of Florida, I can write about Florida laws, right? And it's got to be like, you don't want to do that. If you're a criminal defense lawyer, you don't want to be writing them about stuff that has nothing to do with criminal defense. But you want to write about criminal defense laws in Florida. So that could be whatever, like they could be like DUI laws or whatever, right? You want to write about that, and it's going to be things that your potential clients would be searching for. So you would not want to do that about like laws in New York as a Florida one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just whatever is going to be useful to your clients, because it doesn't do you any good to get a bunch of traffic to your website from people that are in other states if you're a local business. So I would say know who your customer is and think about what kind of things are they going to be searching for. So as an example, if I want to do SEO for painters, I'm going to write a blog post about how to do like painter SEO, because that's my client. So I'm going to look up the keywords that they would be searching for. I'm going to start with the very basic, like what is paint SEO for painters or something like that. And then I'm going to drill down into all of the strategies. And by the end of that blog post, they will know every step for their SEO, for SEO for painters, I would say. And I would say that's just an example for a local business, and it's the same thing if you're a national or an international business. You're going to look at who are my potential clients and what might they be searching for. You can do another thing you can do is look at what other people do really well in your space and then say, okay, I'm going to try and do this better than what they do and reverse engineer that.
How do you help clients know what their ROI is?
So that's a hard thing with SEO, is to say, look, you're paying me X amount per month and it's paying you back this much per month. So what we do is we try and make sure we track everything as much as possible. That includes how much people are getting through, how much traffic is coming to their website, but also how much of that is turning into conversions, and then what's the quality of that. So it's a little bit hard to say, well, for this one lead, it's worth X, right? But we do need to know how much for your business is it if you get a sale. Is that worth $10 like an e-commerce business, or is that worth $10,000, right? If you sell cars or something else. So we need to know there's a ton of communication that has to go on with that. And I think that's one of the biggest things with SEO too. You won't last long in SEO if you don't communicate well, or frequently, I'll say, with your clients. But that's got to be the biggest thing is getting from them, okay, I'm seeing this in your Google Analytics and in the conversions and everything. How is that working for you? Are these turning into sales, or are these garbage leads? Are these bots or something weird, right? And so if you have those frequent conversations, that's the best way that you can track that and help them. I mean, if they don't feel like they're getting their value, and even if you're giving them good value, by the way, if you don't talk to them, they'll have no idea that you're a part of that. But if you're talking to them frequently and you're showing that you care about what their sales are, and you should, because they won't keep you if you don't, then you'll get a pretty good idea on what the ROI is.
Okay. So how much of it, of helping them track the ROI, is it just like a survey at the end versus like last point attribution? Because you can say, hey, we have this much traffic and this many clicks, and here's the actions. But if you're dealing, I assume, with local, you probably lose a lot of the traction, right?
A lot of the tracking, you mean?
With a lot of the tracking. So you can come through and say there's my local analytics, but I don't know how much of that information also tracks through regular Google Analytics and then to actual funnel or purchase, especially if the actual end purchase is not done on the website.
Yeah, sorry. What was the original question you asked at the beginning? Sorry.
So it's just, how do you help them track that, or how do you communicate the value? Like, let's say you were to work with Codebase as a client, which you should, because we don't do anything in the SEO space. Right. But how would you help Codebase know someone found me? Like, 'cause if someone finds you on Google Local, all that information doesn't go through GA4, or does it?
So you're not going to know every single bit of somebody typed in this word, and then they went through and they turned into a sale, right? So that does make it harder because of that. But with Google Analytics and Google Search Console, as an example, you can see the different words that are coming in, that are bringing people in, and you can see what pages are ranking for those words. You can actually even set up just and it's free, a tag that goes along with it. It's a URL string that goes along with whenever someone comes through your Google business profile. So you can see separated from, okay, someone came to this page because not through the Google business profile, like let's say the home page as an example, but also, or they came through because of this. One of the simplest things is, how are your leads doing? Right? I would say have the conversation frequently, and are your leads up? Are they down? Because look, as a business owner, nobody cares if their website traffic is up if your sales are down, right? And it's the same thing with your leads. And are they quality? So look, my leads are up, but they're all garbage. And I feel like I'm getting less good leads than I was before. Like, that's a conversation you need to have frequently. I don't send out something that is just a survey as, hey, like, how is that? And I've heard of people doing that, and I think that can work well for people. I like to keep things as personal as possible. So where I will send you an email, or I'll have a phone call with you and say, hey, how are your leads doing? Like, I know your traffic is up, but is that turning into more leads? Is that turning into more sales for you? And I just like to have that conversation as much as possible.
Okay. Maybe as a final question, is for someone who's looking to start an SEO company right now, after all the questions that we've talked about, what advice would you have for them?
Start right now.
Okay.
I think starting is the hardest thing in the world to do. And if you start right now, even if you think you're not ready, start and you will become more ready. Just be willing to make mistakes and to own that and improve on it, because there is never a perfect time to start. The perfect time to start is yesterday. So just get started while you can.
Yeah, I was talking with a friend about this. He wants to start an Instagram account. And it's a particular type of like content for in the sporting space. And I'm like, you know what? You're going to miss the season if you don't start now. Right. You're going to then say, oh, I'm going to start next year. And I feel like a lot of these, more like in the influencer space, which again, it's content and promotion. It's the ones that are successful just committed to a regular cadence out of the gate, whether it was good or bad, they just made it happen.
Yeah, and you learn a lot along the way. And the other thing is, look, when I first decided, and this is the case for everyone I know, if you say, look, I'm going to start doing SEO on the side today, your first client does not come that day. Like, it took me several months of trying to figure out how to get a client. I mean, I remember going through like ksl.com and like just looking for businesses on there, right? And cold calling people, which I would not recommend, but I learned a lot through doing those things. And it took me a few months of trying to figure out like what works. And so if you start today, you're not going to be inundated with new clients and you don't know what to do and stuff. It's my experience was it was a little bit of a slow process for me to gain clients. And I think that's the case for most people. So start now and you'll learn as you go.
My rule is the hardest thing is getting your first client. The second hardest thing is getting your second client. And then it tends to get progressively easier.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like I say, it took me, I think about 3 months before I got a client. And then I had just him for a couple of months, but then all of a sudden it snowballed. I remember I was just making a few $100s a month in the beginning, and then all of a sudden I was making like several $1,000s a month, and it just really, really started going as people like your work and they see that you're willing to do a good job for them.
What bad advice have you gotten?
Try and be a perfectionist, probably.
Okay. Did I give you bad advice?
I don't think you ever did, actually. No, actually, you were someone that really pushed me, and like you and AJ Wilcox were a couple of guys that were just like, no, just start. Like, why are you waiting? And I think you actually told me that on those Saturday morning hikes at like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m, that like, you just need to, what are you waiting for? Like, just go. And I remember it's just scary at the beginning, but you guys made me see like, there's nothing to really be afraid of. And I think that was before the pandemic. So it's been like 5 years or 6 actually, I think. And where I've been doing it on the side for a while and now on my own for a while. And I think that is the best thing that anybody could tell you to do is like, what are you waiting for? There's never going to be a perfect time to start. Just the perfect time is now.
What pushed you to finally make it happen?
I think it was you guys and my younger brother, actually. It's funny. 3.5 years younger than me, but I look up to him so much. And he told me some of the same things you guys did. And he was one of the ones that really said, look, if this doesn't work, what do you lose? Right? Yeah, you lost a little bit of time, but you would probably make a little bit of money at least. Like, let's say you get a client and they hate you and you don't do a good job for them. Like, you're not going to keep getting clients and you just go back to what you're doing. And so you guys, I would say the three of you really pushing me and just saying like, look, just do it. It's scary, but you'll figure it out. And having a belief in me, making me believe in myself, I think was what really helped me get started with it. And like, I couldn't be more grateful. Like I said, I mean, I was in Argentina for a month, and I was in Mexico for 2 weeks before that. And I've gotten to just see so much of the world. And, like, even as a little bit of a separate note, one of the benefits of remote work is like, my mom got sick and she has Parkinson's. And so she was sick, and they had to take her to the ER about 1.5 years ago. And like, I'm the only one in my family that was 100% remote. I just went up and stayed with my parents and was able to be with my mom, and if she needed something, like, I could sleep on the couch in the room next to her, if she ever needed something. And the helping me see what it could be like, I think was the biggest benefit and the biggest pusher for me.
Your vision?
Yeah, the vision for it. Because like AJ would talk about, you can go like, yeah, look, there's cons to being your own boss, right? If I lose a client, I lose money out of my pocket. But there's also so many benefits. Like AJ was telling me that if he needs to take one of his kids to the dentist, he can do that. And then he can come back after and work an extra hour or something. He doesn't have to ask for permission or something like that. And, I will say I just got so tired of working in offices where they would give me permission to go to physical therapy when I hurt my knee or something. And then when I would leave early, they would get frustrated with me and say like, why are you leaving early? I'm like, you gave me permission, or saying, hey, you can't eat lunch at your desk while you work or something like that, because it might look a certain way. And so I love that this is, I can be as much as I want. I can be as successful as I'm willing to put in. And for me, that is the dream. And then being able to do that from anywhere I want.
What do you think your challenges are to growing the business to like, let's say your goal is to double the business. What do you think would be your biggest challenges?
Probably time and knowing how to scale that. I think I haven't doubled in 1 year. I have doubled in a time span of like 2 years, let's say. But I think a lot of it is just figuring out, like, I mean, if all of a sudden I doubled my client base, it's like, okay, I'm going to have to figure out how to have get more people that can help me do all this, because if you just try and do it on your own, you're going to get burned out so fast. And so I think I'd have to scale that. And that would be a little bit of a challenge for me, I think.
Have there been any moments of like self-awareness or reflection where maybe you weren't aware of something about yourself and then you got to know yourself better that made significant outputs or changes?
That increased outputs?
Outputs or success or...
Yeah, I think this is something I've heard so frequently, but it's so true, is just you have to be willing to let go of some things and to know that it's not going to be perfect, right? But like... everybody wants to do it all themselves, or at least a lot of people do in the beginning. And that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to, I'm the one doing this all by myself. And then as time goes on, you realize like, oh, if I get new clients, I have to be willing to pay somebody else to help me with this. And that's kind of a scary thing to say, like, I'm going to let you do this. And you still look over it, but it's just hard sometimes because well, if I'm doing it, I can control it, right? And so if you're a control freak, which I am a little bit, I guess, that's hard to let go of. But letting someone else take some of that load and then just overseeing it is a huge benefit to having your business grow.
Do you benchmark your numbers at all, or in any way? For example, at Codebase, we look at public companies in the space. We look at what are their operating margins, their net operating margins, et cetera. And then we try to mirror those because we feel like those companies are at economies of scale, and that should be a good guide for us.
So for me, I don't look at what other people are doing in terms of like what are their numbers that they're bringing, like their revenue numbers or
Mm-hmm.
the number of employees that they have. I don't care about that. I think I'm very much of how are we doing in comparison to how we were before?
Okay.
And because that's something I can realistically look at everything that I was doing yesterday. I mean, you can do that on a personal level, right? But doing it from here's where I am and my spot in the industry or how I've been improving. That's something that I feel like is really good to measure, and I can control again, like how I improve and stuff like that. But I don't look at other people too much to say, oh, are they doing better than me? Yeah, I think you should look at other people and other industries and other agencies and stuff to see how maybe how much they're charging or how they do certain things. But at the end of the day, if you try it, that might not work for you. And so you have to figure out what works best for you.
Yeah, for us, I used to just kind of pull the numbers out of my head, try to guess. Sometimes you try to sense the client. Then I wanted to, at Codebase, have a level of fairness and try to kind of standardize pricing. So then we built a complex calculator. And for us, that's when we started benchmarking. Well, what are Accenture or some like Infosys or other staffing companies? Where are they at? And that was a big exercise that we had. It was also a good exercise of control because in your case, I don't know how much of the money that comes in goes out the door of services you're doing versus someone else. But in Codebase's perspective, we have, massive, payroll expense, things like that. And I remember at the end of every year for the first few years, it was, hey, money's disappearing somewhere that I don't understand. Where's that going?
Yeah. And for me, it's, I guess there are certain figures that I know, right. And that we know at the company, even though they're contractors. I mean, my sister works for me, so it's we.
How's that?
It's great, actually. I had a client ask me about that when he had a phone call with her, and it's funny because he didn't ask me, but he asked her. He said, "So you work with Blaze? Like he's your brother?" And she said, "Yeah." And he's like, "How is that?"
Okay.
And she said, "It's great. I mean, she's my best friend, and we're really close in my family. So she's been working for me for over 2 years, maybe like 3." And I just wanted someone I could really trust, and I know I knew she would do great, and she does. So. She loves it. I always talk to her and the other girl that work for me, and I just say like, "How are you guys happy?" Because I don't want you to go anywhere, and so I need to make sure that you're happy. Like, let me know if you're not. And also, what do you guys want to do? Like, do you want to grow or anything? Or do you want to go somewhere else? Do you want to have your own agency? Whatever. And I need to know their goals and stuff like that. So it's been great working with her. I know they say don't work with family, but for me, like I would give bad advice on that because my family, it's been great.
What do you think has made the difference for you
In working with her or, I don't know. I think you mean versus other people working for their family members or?
Yeah. Like a lot of people say, don't do it. My rule is don't hire someone you're not willing to fire. And so if you're not willing to risk that, then don't touch it.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a good rule for a lot of people. And if you don't have if you don't feel like you could work with a family member, probably don't do it. If you're at all worried about it. I wasn't worried even 0.01% about hiring her on. For me, I think the thing that has really worked well with that is to give her the same leeway that I gave myself, is to say, look, you're going to make mistakes. I told her that when she very first started. And I said, that's okay. I want you to make mistakes because, and you won't grow and you won't get really good at it if you don't. And has she made mistakes? Sure. But I've made mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. And so looking at it as yeah, she made that mistake, but I've done the same thing, or I did the same thing when I was newer. So I just keep an eye on stuff and I just try and be someone that I feel like probably kind of the Gary V way of looking at stuff is is this someone how would I want someone to treat me? Am I going to be a good manager of her? And whenever there's been mistakes, they've been really small anyway. So it hasn't been an issue.
Do you have any equity partners or you went in solo?
Solo.
Would you do solo again or?
Yeah, I would. Especially, I would recommend that for most people. I think Well, it depends on your specific circumstances, but if you're at all like I was and you're nervous about doing this thing for the first time, I would say just start and don't stress about it too much. I probably stressed about it a little bit too much in the beginning. Like I set up a website first, and I made sure I set up an LLC first because I was so worried about anything bad happening. But
I think that's a common question. People reach out. They're like, "What's my legal structure?"
Yeah,
I'm like, "What's your risk? If
Yeah.
there's no risk of messing up, then why?" Again, not legal advice because I feel like we're touching that zone.
Right.
But just go and do it.
Yeah, I mean the easiest way is to start as a sole proprietor, right? And you're not quite as protected, but like if you do work for someone, if you don't have any clients, or you have one client that pays you like, I don't know, when you're starting out, you're probably only going to charge like $1,000 a month or something. That if you only have one client, it's not as big of a deal. But I would say, I mean, as soon as you get even that first client, then you can set up an LLC. And I would recommend doing that. Again, I guess I can't give out business advice, but
you can give out business advice, just anything legal.
Legal, yeah.
We don't, on this podcast, I don't give legal advice.
Right. Yeah, sorry. I'm not trying to give out legal advice. I mean, I would say for the time and money that you have to put into being in a single member LLC, you might as well just do that. That's not going to take that long. It's not expensive. At least it's not in Utah. I don't know how it is everywhere, but I would say do that. But I wouldn't have that be something that really holds you back because you can do that as soon as you find out you're getting your first client or something like that. Or you can do it even after you've had your first client for some time.
What do you think is the biggest thing that holds someone back who has started an SEO company like you? And maybe it's not you or someone else, but what's the biggest challenge in growth?
I think people don't know how to scale, or they don't know, or they're just afraid of delegating and letting go. Because so if you do SEO for an agency and you're just some low guy in the totem pole who's basically taking orders the whole time, I don't think you know how you would give those out as much. And so I think that can be a little bit difficult for some people. And that was a little bit of a transition for me. I'd never had to give out direction as to like, hey, here's what I need you to do, and I'm going to train you to do it. And you need to make sure that whoever you have, that as you're scaling up, that they're going to be someone that is trainable and that you can do a good job. And so there has to be accountability there too, right? So I think that's probably difficult for some people. Is how could I lead somebody else if I haven't done that? Right. But I think it's the same as anything. Like everybody has to start somewhere. You will learn as you go. Just do it as the need arises.
Okay. Well, any other pointers before we wrap up this podcast?
I would just say, get started right now. Don't wait.
Okay. How can the listeners help you out? You've shared a lot of advice. You've answered questions.
Yeah, I mean, if you liked my advice, you could follow me on LinkedIn for more advice, or you could also leave me a review on. You can go to Blaze Digital Marketing and leave me a review.
BlazeDigitalMarketing.com.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. I assume you've always been a .com or you're Blaze Digital Marketing.
It's always been .com. Yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
Maybe one last question. What are your thoughts on non.com domain names?
I think that they can be great. I mean, there was a time when it was really weird if you had something that wasn't .com.
This podcast is a .fm.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything bad about that anymore. There was a time that it was weird, and there probably can be there are some weird ones that are not .coms, but I always say, look, if you can get the .com, go for that first. But don't change your URL to being something that has nothing to do with your business or something that's really odd that you're going to maybe want to change down the road, just so you can get the .com. So if you have to be something like if it's a .co or .net, I've had plenty of clients do really well with those URLs, and I wouldn't let that be something that stops you.
My rule has always been, if I text someone on an iPhone or if I'm texting an Android user and I don't put the www at the beginning, does the phone know to convert it to your URL? And if it does, then I think you're safe.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a pretty good rule to follow. I would say for most of my clients that don't know anything about SEO, they can look at something and think that it looks weird, right? It just what is this, like whatever, And so if you think it's odd and some other people think it's odd, that's probably a pretty good sign that it's an odd one. If it looks fine to you, I mean, stick to the ones that are pretty normal if you can.
Mm-hmm.
So .com, I always say first. .co, .net, those things work totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think your standard is pretty good too.
Maybe one last question. Do you have rules about how many clients you can onboard at a time? Like when I was starting Codebase, the rule was, because I think it was one new client a quarter, no matter the size, whether they wanted 10 engineers or they wanted one half-time software engineer.
No, I actually don't have a rule on that. And I would say too, if you're starting out in SEO, you're not going to have that problem. But for me, I've taken on like, several in a month or something like that at a time. And that is more stressful, right? But it's only stressful for a little bit. So for me, I've been willing to do that, and that's worked great. You're going to have to, if you're starting your own SEO agency, you need to figure out how much you're willing to suffer at times, because it definitely is suffering at times. But I would say, yeah, it's up to what you think you can do at that time.
Maybe last question. I keep saying last question. Do you feel like you've had good sales pipeline consistency in your space, or is that a concern?
I mean, it's a concern just in the sense of I always want it to be good, right? I always want to be growing. I don't feel like that's been a major problem for me. For me, it hasn't been. I'll say this: my leads and sales are not super consistent, right? Where it's like, oh, I'm getting one person every day or whatever, like that, or 10 people a week or something they're interested in hiring me. But for me, it's a little bit more of, it has been the ebbs and flows, and that's probably going to be the case for most people as they're starting.
For me, there's been a high correlation for every time I take a trip to India, is when our sales pipeline will increase.
I think for me, the thing is, as I've been more consistent in my own SEO, that's when I have seen an uptick in things.
How many leads can you get from your own SEO? Let's go there.
How many leads do I?
Yeah.
Personally? Yeah. I mean, so if I'm posting consistently on LinkedIn, and I've actually slowed that a little bit just as I've onboarded new clients and things. But which is funny because that's not what I recommend doing. But if I'm consistently posting tips on LinkedIn or something like that, I tend to get more leads. I wouldn't say there's a direct correlation as to, if you're doing that, you're getting X number. But
how many LinkedIn followers do you have?
I don't know, actually, off the top of my head.
Okay. What about for SEO stuff?
So how often do I do that?
As an agency, how often are you getting leads through Google?
I get leads at least several a week, I'll say. Okay. Something like that. But that depends on it. Are they going to be someone that is a good fit? Are they someone that's going to be, are they a quality lead even, right?
How many quality leads are you getting from Google in a month?
Quality leads from Google in a month, probably one or two, something like that.
And are most of those just from local?
No, I would actually say they are a mix. It's a total mix.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have some people that find me through my website here, or they find me through my Google business profile, that locally. And then I have other people that saw, like, maybe they saw a blog post I wrote, or they saw me. I guess this wouldn't be totally SEO, but it is related. Well, I got quoted in something, and they'll say, you look like you really knew what you're doing. And then I clicked through to your website, and then, through the link, and I saw it, and I looked on your website and I really liked it. So they asked for a free review or something like that. Okay.
Well, it's good. Well, thank you so much for sharing. BlazeDigitalMarketing.com. All of your social links are there. How do they find you on LinkedIn?
There's not a whole lot of Blaze Bullocks on LinkedIn, so you can just do it's just at Blaze Bullock, and I think it's at Blaze Bullock. Yeah, you can just find me there.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us on the podcast, howtostartabusiness.com. See you for the next episode.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right.